This is the Cardinal Report, and I'm Charlie Edward. On today's show, we recap the season that was for the North Central men's basketball team. But first, a look at other happenings in North Central athletics. The women's basketball team was gunning for a CCIW championship over the weekend. In its opener against Elmhurst, North Central found a way past Fiona McMahon and the Blue Jays, but it went down to the wire. Leading 87-85 with about a minute left in the contest, Michaela Eppert, who scored 26 points, tied the game with a layup. But Tess Gotthard in the clutch made a key defensive play that helped her to the free throw line, where she eventually won the game for North Central. This put the Cardinals in the CCIW championship game, where the ride was just as bumpy. We take you now to the highlights. Corinne Rowe, Mason Whipple, 12 points each in the opening postseason win over Elmhurst. One night later in the championship game against Wheaton, Tess Gotthard had 12 the last time she played Wheaton. The Thunder, feeling confident, they beat NCC 109-60 in that matchup. 19-5 Thunder. Emily Zagota wills NCC back in with this triple. Then Jamie Cooney gives Rowe a shot at three, swish. And Mason Whipple, again handing off to Anita Sterling. And again a three, 19-16 Wheaton. Later, a Gotthard and one pushes the score to 21-19. Then she knifes through traffic to give NCC the lead, 24-23. Now up 32-30, the Cards want more from Gotthard, and they get it. One more and one, and a 5-point lead. Bobby Johns tries to add to that lead with time running out, but Gotthard ends up doing it herself again. 15 points in the first half, and North Central leads 46-37. Chantel Meacham, no good. Considine pulls in the rebound, and now who's feeling it? Katie McDaniels, who notched 14 points. That kicked off a run that continues here. Zeller with one of her three trays. Then a long two. And suddenly, it's 59-58, Wheaton leading. Thunder not done there. A bullet pass inside to Considine, 73-64. Then she cleans up the mess off the glass here, and now it's Wheaton really feeling it. 81-66 Thunder. So North Central needs an answer from somebody, and it gets one, thanks to some creative, nifty footwork from Cooney. Cooney had 15, including this shot from downtown that puts NCC within 6. But Considine had more, a silky mid-range jumper, 33 points for her, and Wheaton goes up by 10 with under a minute left, easily hanging on for the CCIW tournament win, 92-80. Both teams let go of double-digit leads, but it's Wheaton coming away with a shot at the NCAA tournament. Despite the loss, North Central was handed an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament and will head to Grand Rapids, Michigan for the opening round on Friday against UW-Oshkosh. Onto the mat, where senior Dylan Mahler was named to the NCAA Division III Scholar All-America team by the National Wrestling Coaches Association, an award he's now won twice. Blake Olson was also given the award for his first time. And more good news, Nathan Seagull, Leighton Binion both qualified for the national championship meet. This following second and third place finishes, respectively, at the Midwest Regional. Seagull made it to the championship match against Mark Savanook of Wheaton. Savanook took a 5-2 decision for the win. Binion's third place finish was highlighted by a 13-6 decision over Matt Quigley of Elmhurst, a win that potted him a nice little confidence boost with the NCAA Division III championships looming. Those start March 13th. In track and field, the North Central women took second place in this year's meet at Carthage College. Illinois Wesleyan, ranked second nationally, took first with 190 points, NCC in second at 187, and Carthage in third at 85.5. Distance runner Megan Costanzo, part of 4 individual CCIW championship wins during the 2-day meet. Costanzo scored 28 points for NCC by herself and was named track athlete of the meet. Her 5,000-meter run took her only 17 minutes, 21.04 seconds, and then she won the 3,000-meter run by breaking the school record time of 10 minutes, 11.34 seconds. Pole vault was a bright spot too. Liz Composto cleared 12 feet 2 inches to take first, and Brooke Patterson cleared 11 feet 8 inches for second. Madison Renfro won the 55-meter hurdles in 8.07 seconds and established a new school, conference, and track record. The men's track team, also at the top of its game, won its 15th straight CCIW Indoor Championship. Every individual distance event was won by North Central. Zach Plink won the 5K with a time of 14 minutes, 43.46 seconds. Travis Morrison, the winner of the 3K, a personal best time of 8 minutes, 21.11 seconds. And Luke Winder cleared 17 feet, 3/4 inches, to win the pole vault, team's 13th pole vault title in 15 years. And Femi Oyewale tied a personal best with his clearance of 6 feet 9 inches to win the high jump. With that personal best, he's moved up the national list with a good chance of qualifying for the D3 National Championships. The team moves on now to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point Last Chance Qualifier, the final competition before the NCAA Division III Indoor National Championships. All right, coming up, the head coach of the men's basketball team, Todd Raridon, followed by senior star Jack Burchett. You're watching TCR. His team finished 18-8 this season, an improvement upon last year's 14-11 record. He is the head coach of the men's basketball team, Todd Raridon, and he's with me now. Todd, how you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Good to see you. You're coming off a very tough loss. What are your initial thoughts on the loss to Augustana?
Well, it was disappointing. You know, I thought that if we could win the game, at least the first round of the conference tournament, we had a good chance to get in the national tournament. Had a good chance of winning the conference tournament then, because then it becomes a neutral court. But, you know, we've had success out at Augustana, and so I was hoping that would carry over, and unfortunately it did not that night.
But a bright spot, Jamie Moten comes off an injury, goes into the game, awesome three-point shooting. He had 28 points total. Was he 100% back to full health in this game?
No, you know, probably the last 3 or 4 games that he played in, he was probably 70 to 80%. Defensively, he's one of our better defensive players from a perimeter standpoint, and we could not put him on their best offensive player because he just couldn't keep up. He couldn't move laterally, which hurt us.
What did it come down to, though? Was it clutch shooting by Augustana late in the game? Because it just seemed like no matter what you did, their accurate shooting was pretty unstoppable.
Well, they got obviously hot there during one stretch, especially their player of the year. So, you know, and that's what it takes. You know, you have somebody that is the player of the year. You hope that they step up, and Augustana had that, and he stepped up late in the game. I think he had 3 points at halftime, and probably the last 8 minutes had 25, something like that, against us. So we just couldn't get him stopped. I mean, it was either to the basket or pulling up step-back threes, whatever it was. But you know, you know, our kids were trying. It was just we just couldn't get him stopped.
Yeah, what did you do to try to account for Hunter Hill? He had 27 points in the game. Is there anything you tried game plan-wise to put a stop to it?
Well, we thought I mean, obviously nothing worked that we were trying, but they ended up going to like a 1-4 low, which we had never seen from Augustana. And consequently, you know, a couple times we went zone, tried to go zone to slow him down. You know, we did not double him. We probably should have, which was my fault, but we hadn't worked on that, so because we didn't think we had to. You know, we thought that if we could just contain him out on the perimeter, we were going to be in good shape, and we were, you know, through probably 35 minutes.
Well, what did the team need more of to get over the hump this season? Because at 18-8, ultimately it was a successful season, but when it came down to it, what did you need more of to really get over the hump at the end?
Well, I think if you looked at our games that we won, for the most part, Charlie, we had 4 kids scoring double figures. And when the games that we lost, we probably had 1 or 2. And so we needed, you know, to me, like I talked to our team a lot about, was the consistency at the offensive end. You know, we'd have kids that maybe scored 20 one night, and then the next night they might have 2. But at that stage, you can't, you know, if we could count on 10 points from those guys that were scoring 20, maybe the next night 10, and to me that's a sign of a good team when you have that. And I think when when I've had my really good teams, we've always been able to count on, you know, 10 to 12 points from one individual that he may have a night of 25 to 30, some night, but he's always going to give us 10 quality points somewhere, whether it's offensive rebounding, whether it's at the free throw line. Like I tell him, there's other ways to score. Instead of just shooting the basketball, you can get to the rebound, you can get the basket, you can get the free throw line, you can get offensive rebounds, and so we could count on that. And this year just seemed like we didn't have that consistency throughout everybody.
But otherwise, a lot of positives to look at. If you can pick one thing this season, what's your biggest takeaway from this year?
Well, I think the way this team came together is the biggest. Think about it, Charlie. When we started the season, if you'd have told me 18-8, I said you're probably nuts, because we had one returning starter back, and no all-conference player. We add players into the mix. We get Charlie Rosenberg back, but who had played off the bench for us 2 years ago. We added a transfer in Jamie Moten, unknown, hasn't played a whole lot of college basketball. We add a freshman, Joe Cannell at point guard, David Fuller, who's played JV for us, Brandon White, JV for us, that's been in our program. But we've added some kids, Erwin Henry, that all unknown kids. But the thing that I really enjoyed was the way that this team came together. I thought we had tremendous leadership from our captains, especially Jack Burchett. I thought he did a tremendous job getting everybody on the same page.
There was so many wonderful stories that came out of this year's squad, and we have a lot of time to reflect on all of that. More with Todd Raridon ahead on TCR.
When you earn your GED diploma, the barriers in your life fall. Take the first step and get free GED information in your area at 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or yourged.org. Earn your GED diploma and begin your brighter future.
Back on TCR and still with Todd Raridon. Todd, you gave us your biggest takeaway from the season, but reflecting back on a very successful year, what's your favorite memory you made?
Well, there's several. I think the way we started off in the season in our non-conference, I thought was pretty special. I thought our win at Wisconsin-Stevens Point was impressive, and more impressive now after you look at what Stevens Point did through the conference. They tied for that Wisconsin league. I think that going in an unknown team and the way they started off was pretty special, and we just kind of are inconsistent throughout the course of the tough CCIW. They found out that it's a grind, and we just had too much inconsistency there. But there were a lot of positives that as a coach you take away from this season.
On a team like this one, there are many factors outside of the star players that make the team so successful. If you can pick your X factors for this season, what would they be?
Well, I think one of our biggest X factors, and I've said this before to a lot of people, is Kevin Hahn. I think that his point production, when he scores, we win. He's the guy that steps up and has 10 to 20 points on a given night. It seems like Brandon White, same way. If he gives us some quality minutes as far as offensive production, both of them are always going to give us good minutes defensively. But when they give us quality minutes offensively, we have a really good chance of winning the basketball game.
8 points in the game against Augustana for Kevin Hahn. You go back to the North Park game, he was a big reason you won that one too. Was his ability not just to score, but in the clutch, a surprise to you this season? No,
Kevin's has that capability. Kevin has improved ever since he's a freshman. I mean, his strength between last year and this year was phenomenal. I mean, he was a very weak player the first 2 years, and he made a priority to get himself stronger. Kevin has the ability to get to the basket because he does have some quickness off the dribble to attack against a bigger guy and finish around the rim. But yet you have to cover him. You have to respect his three-point shooting. You know, at Augustana earlier in the season when we won out there, I mean, he had like 16, 18 points for us, and he was on fire from outside. So when they went out to cover, he got to the basket. Then he had the ability to get around him and get to the free throw line, finish around the rim. His strength obviously helped us because he could finish around the rim, where the last couple of years he did not have that.
In the game against Augustana, 26-all tie on the boards, that between Charlie and Jack. But now you're losing both of them because they're both seniors. What do you do to replace them? Is it a frantic search now to find their replacements?
Well, you hope that you know, your younger guys can step up. You know, I think we have a couple kids in the JV program that now is their time to shine a little bit. You know, you think back about what Jack and Charlie has done. I mean, they definitely have controlled the inside. And, you know, it's like missing Landon Gamble inside. You know, you didn't know what was going to happen inside, but those guys, I thought, filled in tremendously for us this year. And so we have to, hopefully we find somebody that can fill in for Jack and Charlie and hold down the middle, because, you know, our program is designed around the inside game. And so if you're a big guy, I mean, I think first team all-conference players, we've had one probably the last 10 years that I can think of. Somebody inside that is always, we had Jack Burchett this year. So, you know, if you're a big guy and you want to be featured, this is a perfect program to be in. And like I said, we're still looking for that individual as far as a high school kid right now or a junior college kid. I don't think we're in a frantic mode, but we're just looking around trying to recruit the best kids we can that are going to fit into our system.
But as you say, there aren't any Landon Gambles just lying around for you to pick up. In the case that you can't find a big man to replace what you have right now, and it's going to be tough, you have guys like Jamie Moten and Kevin Hahn. Do you build the team then around, you know, faster guys who can shoot from the perimeter? Is that your plan B?
Well, that would be plan B, I think, at this point, is go more to ball screens out on the perimeter, spread everybody out if we don't have the inside guy. But, you know, even if we find the inside guy that can pick and pop, and a lot of teams are doing that right now. But, you know, I still think the game is you have to have an inside presence. You have to be able to score from 5 feet away. I mean, those are easy baskets for the most part, and you have to control the inside. You seem to shoot a lot better from 5 feet than you do from 18, 20 feet. So, you know, we take our chance inside, but I think that you know, like I said, we'll continue to search and see what holds next year.
Searching is such a big part of the job, and now it's all of your job. And looking forward to the future, outside of the big men that we've mentioned so many times, what are your lesser-known needs going into a scouting period?
Well, I think depth is probably the biggest thing right now. Is who's going to step up from our JV program and provide that for us. You know, we have a couple kids that are in the fold right now, high school kids that I think can help us right away. But you know, they don't have the college experience, and I think if you ask any of our players, that college experience is you know, it's a valuable lesson to when you first get in there as a freshman to you know, because the strength and the speed of the game is such, even at the small college level, more so than the high school, and kids have a tough time adjusting, and it's a grind. I mean, you know, practices are longer, they're more physical, and the season's a little bit longer, and the games are harder and longer, and so, you know, all that stuff goes together, and you mix it together, and you hope at the end of the day that you have a pretty good team as they shake out.
Well, the scouting is all done for a reason. It's to replace these seniors leaving. Let's take a look back at the careers of 4 North Central seniors on this week's Cardinal Corner. How do you replace a senior class like this one? In the simplest terms, you don't. The market for big men isn't exactly booming, and though head coach Todd Raridon has always done a fine job of finding them, finding 2 of them in one off-season will be daunting. Going back up for Erwin Henry. Henry goes around the world, gives it off to Rosenberg, and Rosenberg gets the shot to go. Charlie Rosenberg, who returned to North Central College after a brief stint at Minnesota State, was arguably the team's finest player this season. The CCIW's 6th leading scorer also finishes 6th elsewhere. His 59 blocks are good for 6th all-time in school history.
Mr. Burchett and the dunk.
Jack Burchett, the other departing big man, also leaves quite a void.
Jack Burchett kisses it off the glass.
3rd all-time in field goal percentage at North Central at 57% and 7th in rebounds at 660.
Fake 3-ball, moving up toward the basket and pushing it in off the glass is Evan Fendley.
In 2014, he earned a spot in the starting lineup and has been a key part of the team's potent three-point shooting, hitting at 39% this year.
The shot away at the buzzer was Mike Reinke.
And last but not least, Mike Reinke, a tenacious big man and a fan favorite. The 6'9", 250-pound senior shot 59% from the field off the bench this campaign, adding to the team's depth. The senior class of 2015.
And last thing, can you reflect on the careers of your 4 seniors leaving this year?
Well, all 4 of them have been a big part of our program. You know, you start with Jack Burchett, who I mean, it's meant a lot to our program. I mean, his work ethic, I mean, he leads by example. He's one of our vocal leaders as well. You know, then you look at Charlie Rosenberg, who has been a big part. Both those guys have been a big part. They were part of our Final Four team a couple of years ago, and they've just been a mainstay, you know, for us, especially inside and at the defensive end for the most part as well. Mike Reinke, Big Mike. I mean, he had minutes this year that he was more of a JV player first 3 years, and he actually had really some quality games for us, some big games for us in spot minutes. And then Evan Finley, perimeter shooter that transferred in, played at York High School, that you know, was one of a terrific three-point shooter. Probably a little inconsistent this year as far as games, but I mean, it wasn't from lack of effort. And all 4 of those guys will be missed greatly.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to replace them, but best of luck in doing that, and hopefully you get some rest this offseason.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Charlie.
All right, coming up, Jack Burchett. You're watching the Cardinal Report.
Today is Saturday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to TCR, joined now by the big man, Jack Burchett. Jack, nice to see you.
Good to see you as well.
And let's reflect a little bit on the Augustana game. Tough loss for you guys. When it came down to it, what really was the difference in the game? Was it Hunter Hill?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where you got to start. You know, he was player of the year in our conference. Obviously, had an outstanding overall year, and you know, those are the type of players that, you know, you look for to take over for your team in those types of situations. Unfortunately for us, you know, we knew we needed to win that game. You know, for any chance at possibly still getting that at-large bid, we thought that maybe if we could get that win in the first round, even if we didn't win the whole thing, we might have a chance. You know, obviously we go out there, you know, with the goal of winning the conference tournament, but you know, things didn't work out in our favor, and yeah, he kind of took over late in that second half, and unfortunately we didn't have anyone who could shut him down.
Augustana also forced 12 turnovers in the game. When it came down to it, was their accurate shooting almost forcing you guys to do a little bit more, to try a little bit harder, and maybe that's what caused all the turnovers?
You know, maybe a little bit. I think we were a couple times in the first half. We had a lot of turnovers in the first half. I think we had some maybe close to 10 or 11 at halftime even. And we were pressing a little bit too hard at times. You know, we talked about taking the air out of the ball a little bit, slowing them down. You know, they're a team that when their guards are getting out in transition, that's when they're at their best, because their bigs run the floor extremely well also. So, you know, we talked about all week, they're looking to get any shot they can in transition, because even if it's not necessarily the greatest look, they know that those bigs are flying in from all over the place, and they're going to get that rebound and get right back into their offense. So we knew we had to slow the game down a little bit to play more in our favor, and you know, I think we did that the majority of the game, and things just got away from us down the stretch.
One of the more interesting things that happened this season was your sudden impact at the free throw line late in the season. What did you do to turn around your impact at the free throw line? I
mean, it didn't necessarily change too much, I guess. You you know, free throws are, you know, something with confidence. I actually had a phone call from my brother about halfway through the season, right before conference started, and he was tearing into me about how I was a better free throw shooter when I was in like 5th grade and all this stuff, saying I'm just not mentally tough enough to make my free throws. So we had a nice long talk, and he was kind of reaming me out, and ever since then I was, you know, I did a lot better job of, felt like I had a lot more focus. I was a lot more comfortable up there, and I don't know what the, you know, finishing numbers were, but I felt like I shot the ball a lot better once throughout the conference season.
Outside of free throw shooting, though, pretty consistent player you were all season long. If you had to pick one game this year that you'd consider your best, your masterpiece, which would it be? Because if it's up to me, I'm picking the Carthage game.
I don't know about best game. There's a couple of good ones in there, you know. The game at home against Wesleyan, that was a good win for us to start off the conference season. You know, that was when we were playing probably our best basketball of the year at that point. You know, that put us, we only had 1 loss at that point in the season, and things were looking good. That was a nice one. You know, other than that, you know, there's a couple in there I feel like I played pretty well, but, you know, I don't know if I could pick out one as the best. I would say, you know, going back to even that Final Four year, maybe that Whitewater game was a great game for us. You know, those are the games that you remember, the bigger games, you know, so much as for what they meant for the team rather than what I could think of, you know, as what I did individually.
But a lot of the memories you make, not just on the court, but off the court as well, and you reflect on that Final Four year too. I mean, you've been through so much with this team. If you can pick any memory, you can even go into a few if you want to. What are your favorites looking back on your career?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this year was a great year. You know, obviously disappointing. You know, I've said all year to everybody, you know, I was going to look at it as a failure if we, you know, weren't competing in March, and that's the way it is. And I don't think that we, you know, lived up to as good as we could have been, and that's disappointing in my eyes, and that's something that I'll probably always dwell on. But, you know, as far as overall career goes, that Final Four year is something, you know, no one can ever take that away from you. It's something we'll always remember. A lot of great memories that year. But I would have to say my favorite year was probably still my freshman year. We were, I think we were like 3-8 non-conference. You know, we had a lot of young guys. We had a huge freshman class. You know, Derek was the only kid that had really played that was returning. He was only a sophomore at the time. And we came out of nowhere, ended up winning the regular season conference, and we lost in the first round, so we didn't make the tournament or anything, but it was a pretty special year with, you know, Brian Evans was our senior leader that year, and just the way we came together as a team in conference and had so many big wins. And, you know, we were all just a bunch of kids back then. We didn't know what anything even meant. You know, we were just out there having fun, and, you know, we came together in a good way, and that was a great experience.
Well, the team is going to lose a very vocal leader in you. It's not just what you do on the floor, but every practice I've been to, you're always the guy speaking up and making points. If there's anybody on the roster right now that you can imagine taking your place in that regard, who would it be?
You know, there's a couple kids in there who I think could fill good leadership roles. You know, there's a couple who already do a great job by example. You know, Kevin Hahn is a junior. I think that he has the potential to step into a big leadership role for them going forward. Same with, you know, even David Fuller and Marcus Agee. You know, Marcus didn't get as many minutes as, you know, Dave, but he's one of those guys who every day in practice is going 100%. And, you know, those are the type of guys you need around to show that, you know, you always need to be doing everything full throttle. You can't just go through the motions. And I think, you know, those three will be a good nucleus that they've been around now all 4 years, and I think they'll be able to handle the leadership role pretty well.
Jack, thanks for your time, and best of luck to you moving forward.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, the men's basketball team, after months of hard work, can reflect now on what was largely a successful season. For the latest on North Central Athletics, follow at NCTV17 on Twitter or log on to northcentralcardinals.com. Thank you for watching. This has been the Cardinal Report.